Hello, I'm Chylli from channel Chylli, and this time we're back, and we're going to be starting Saya no Uta. This is actually my second time recording this intro. For some reason my audio wasn't working, so I got through like the first section of the game. But I'm going to be going back and doing it with the in-game voice acting and stuff. So yeah, without further ado, let's just get right into it. Also, I forgot to say before we get into this, I am going into this game almost entirely blind. I do have the 18 plus NSFW unlocking patch. I will absolutely be censoring it, but I heard the scenes are really important for the character development. So I'd rather have them than not have them. Anyway, the characters are voice acted, but the narration isn't, I don't think, so I'll be reading the narration. The wriggling mass of flesh burbles. Three such creatures sit around the table in front of me, slurping filthy sludge from their caps as they trade whines, growls, and sounds that I cannot describe. By listening carefully, I'm able to grasp the gist of their conversation and respond when it's required of me. This is necessary to avoid arousing their suspicion. However these creatures look, they are my friends apparently. I wish that I could still deny it, but I gave up on that a long time ago. Night after night, I went to sleep praying for an end to this nightmare, only to wake up each morning the same twisted hellscape as the day before. I know now that I have to blend in, that I have to act like one of them. Such has been my life these past 3 months, and it will remain until the day I die. Judging by its tone, this one must be Koji, and the one next to him squealing more than the others is probably Omi. Which means the one next to me is Yo, though I can no longer see any trace of her once attractive features. I try my best to ignore the rotten stench of excrement that issues from her quivering flesh. You really have to feel for the main character to being subjected to this. Everything has changed. Or almost everything. By some cruel trick of fate, my relationship to the world alone remains the same. As if an insane architect took the blueprints of my life and rebuilt it out of blood and gore. These monsters and I were part of the same college club. We studied together, ate together, we even went on skiing trips together every winter break. Now these are but painful memories of days that will never return. If only no one recognized me, I might have been able to disconnect myself from the world. It would have been comforting in comparison, to believe that I had been abducted by aliens or that I had stumbled through a gateway to hell. But no, this is beyond a doubt the city where I was born and raised. The society that I was a part of for 20 years. Save that I and I alone can no longer see it that way. The world as I knew it is gone. I have no place to call my home. Anyway, I can tell that whatever they're discussing is of no importance to me. I decide to keep quiet while pretending to listen. But just then... one of the flesh beasts says as it swivels its bloodshot eyes towards me. I try desperately to suppress my loathing and behave normally, but my hoarse voice ruins the attempt. A slimy hole near the top of the creature lies nauseatingly as it vomits some semblance of words. That must be Koji's face, or what I would have seen as such 3 months ago. Unable to stomach the sight of it, I avert my eyes and give a neutral answer. These were my closest companions. One of them had even wished to be more. How many nights have I spent crying in loneliness, lamenting the friends who no longer exist? In 3 months, my tears ran dry and now there's only loathing left in me. Surrounded by hideous creatures that I can only assume are Koji, Omi, and Yo, I spend each day trying to act as I always have. If I fail at this, I'll surely be sent back to the hospital. Only this time I'll be locked away forever. No matter what, I won't let that happen.
どうだろうな。今日の診療で先生に聞いてみる。
That's it. I can't look at them or bear their screeching any longer. I jumped to my feet, desperate to escape. A spray of stringy slime from the cilia around its voice box flies at me. I try to cover myself, but too late to keep the slime from splattering across my face like the yolk of a rotten egg. I'm about to lose it. I want to grab a chair, a desk, anything within reach, and use it to smash the life out of this creature, ending it all. I barely suppress the impulse. I mustn't let on that anything is wrong. However they look at me, this is their world. I'm the outsider here.
だから今日も診療なんだ。もう時間だから。
Struggling to put on a smile, I reach into my wallet, take out the first bill I find, and put it on the table without even looking at it. I don't care about the change, I just need to get out of here now.
それじゃ
I mutter hastily and flee the cafeteria. I'm not crazy.
ねえねえ、今度のスキーだけどさ、今年はどっかスケートも遊べるところにしない？
Says Takahata Omi. Tsukuba Yo frowns at the suggestion.
スケート？わざわざスキー場にまで行ってスケート？
Apologies, I needed to get a drink really quick.
勘弁してやってくれよ、つくば。こいつ今そっちにハマってんだ。
Tono Koji supports Omi with a laugh. Her impromptu suggestions are nothing new, and it's Koji's role as her boyfriend to provide backup. They're a good match for each other, Yo thinks. Sometimes it makes her jealous.
なんせオウミってさ、この前この年になって初めてスケートやったんだ。
何よ、スケートしたことなかったのがそんなに不思議
？20歳になって初体験ってのは興味そうそういないんじゃないかな。
子供の頃はなんとなく怖かったのよ。あの靴、なんだか刃物みたいでさ。でもいきなりやって滑れたの？オウミちゃん、すごくない？
容量はスキーとそう変わるもんじゃないからな。重心を前に出して靴の前のヘリでコントロールする感覚とか。
コウジにそう言われたもんだからさ、騙されたと思ってやってみたわけよ。そうしたらもう楽しくって。
So it was a date. Yo feels a stab of envy. Koji and Omi enjoy their time together as normal lovers do. That's certainly not something that should make her jealous. It's just that her luck in love has been bad.
私も見てみたいな。オウミちゃんがスケートやるところ。
Here keeps her voice upbeat, trying to cover up her disquiet. She knows that it's wrong to envy her friends. She too would be spending time with the man she admires if not for the terrible tragedy that befell him. As his true misfortune, her bad luck doesn't even begin to compare.
だからさ、ね、今度のスキー旅行、ついでにスケート旅行にしちゃえば2倍美味しく楽しいってわけよ。でもさ、スケートはスケートリンクに行けばできるじゃない。わざわざスキー場に行ってまでやる？だから屋内じゃなくてさ、屋外スケート、凍った湖とかで滑れるところ。そんな都合のいいとこあるかな？なんだかすっごく混んでそう。
While speaking, Yo sneaks a sideways glance at the young man sitting next to her. Although the conversation has involved only 3 people so far, there are in fact 2 couples at the cafeteria table. Yo's boyfriend, though there's some doubt over whether he could be called that, is beside her, as silent and expressionless as a statue.
なあ、ふみのり。お前はどう思う？
Perhaps Koji sensed Yo's pain in his usual quiet and considerate way.
どうって。
The cause of Yo's distress, Saki-Sara Fuminori, responds to Koji's sudden inquiry. with a vague, mumbled question of his own.
いや、だからさ、今年の冬のスキーだよ。お前も行くよな。
Koji speaks gingerly, as though probing a tumor. A few months ago, he would not have hesitated to rebuke Fuminori for his attitude. Their long acquaintance had formed a strong and honest relationship, but now... Sorry, I'm back. I want to get a drink and go to the bathroom.
わからない。
Fuminori responds bluntly, his downcast eyes and sullen demeanor making it clear that he has no desire to break his silence.
何か他の予定でもあるのか？
いや、別に。
Even Koji, Fuminori's best friend, could not communicate with him as before. What hope does Yo have of breaking through his shell? The scars left by the events of that late summer day are still deep all these months later. Each one of the four bears them, not only Fuminori.
なあ、別に運動するのが傷に触るとかそういうわけでもないんだろ？
どうだろうな。今日の診療で先生に聞いてみる。
As though that answer drained the last of his patience, Fuminori bolts out of his chair.
おい、Fuminori!
Even Koji can't help his voice from rising as he tries to stop Fuminori from leaving. Fuminori reacts swiftly, throwing his hand over his face as though to shield himself from something terrifying. Maybe some spit flew inadvertently from Koji's mouth, but that happens sometimes. Fuminori's reaction is beyond the pale.
だから今日も診療なんだ。もう時間だから。
Fuminori snaps, making no attempt to relieve the discomfort of his friends. Even as he tosses money on the table to pay for his coffee, he acts like he's touching something filthy.
それじゃあ。
Fuminori stalks out of the cafeteria, almost as if he's running away. Cloaked in heavy silence, the remaining three lower their gaze to the table, where the abandoned 10,000 yen bill sways forlornly. Fuminori's coffee is untouched.
やってられないわね。
Omi says with a sigh, but Koji shakes his head reproachfully.
Fuminori にはもう少し時間が必要なんだと思う。
だってもう3ヶ月よ。なんなのよあれ。付き合ってるこっちが変になりそうよ。
俺だってわからない。わかるはずもないと思う。お前だって想像つくか？あんなひどい形で家族全員を奪われて平気でいられるわけないよ。
It could have happened to anyone. A tractor trailer slipped over on the highway, crushing the Sakisara family car into twisted scrap. They said it had been difficult to tell the bodies of Fuminori's parents apart. For a while it looked as though there was no hope for Fuminori either. It was nothing short of a miracle that he was able to leave the hospital and return to a normal life.
見舞いに行った時なんてもっとひどかったじゃないか。誰が誰かもわからずに怯えて暴れてベッドに縛り付けられて。今はよくあそこまで立ち直ってくれたと思う。
それにしたって変よ、咲坂くん。私たちのこと見る目つき、あれ何なの？まるでこっちが人間じゃないみたい。
よせ、オミ。
Koji says forcefully, probably less out of empathy for his friend than out of consideration for Yo. While Koji's kindness makes her happy, Yo also knows that she mustn't take advantage of it. Fuminori is the victim, just as Koji said. He's the one who most deserves sympathy. Yo's feelings for Fuminori are her problem and no one else's. She doesn't blame Fuminori for not giving her an answer after she worked up the courage to ask him out. In fact, she thinks even more fondly of them for taking the time to consider than she would have had I treated their relationship casually. Apparently, the fact that Fuminori did not reject her was enough to make them a couple in Koji and Omi's eyes. They've had plenty of fun at Yo and Fuminori's expense since. The truth of it, though, is that he still hasn't given her an answer. After revealing her feelings to him, Yo didn't see Fuminori again until a week later, but then she could only stare at his broken body through the window of the ICU. And when he was finally released after 50 days, that seemed like an eternity, he was somehow different. He's starting to doubt that he even remembers that she confessed to him before the accident. I mean, he did say earlier in the story that one of his friends had hoped to be something more than a friend, so he definitely remembers. And he did say she's attractive, so... Now winter is coming, and her feelings hang forgotten in the cold, lonely air. I don't think they could have a very good relationship right now, seeing as though he sees them as disgusting, freaky gore monsters. So I don't think he can really give her an answer there. Dr. Tombo Ryoko has never had a more troublesome patient. This is where I saved the first time. So this is as far as I got last time. So everything from here on out is new stuff I haven't seen before.
その後の経過はどうですか、咲坂さん。
いえ、別段。これといって問題もなく。
His voice is hard and flat. His words tossed carelessly into the air. It's like he's speaking to himself in an empty room. Ryoko is a surgeon, not a psychiatrist, but even she can sense the thickness of the wall he has erected between himself and the world.
吐き気やめまい、幻聴や幻覚といった体験は？
いえ、何も。
While Saki-sama appears to be looking at Ryoko, his gaze is actually aimed a fraction down and to the side. He's only superficially engaged to the conversation, when in truth it does not interest him in the slightest. Perfect rejection. Realizing that she can't interview him like this, Ryoko sighs and sets her chart aside.
咲坂さん、あなたが当院で受けた処置は脳神経医学の分野では世界的に最先端の治療でした。そのことはご存知ですよね。
Treatment of subdural hematoba through the use of micro machines. A procedure available in Japan exclusively here at T University. Had been the only way to save Sakisara Fuminori from a cerebral contusion that would have been fatal.
最先端であるということは、まだまだデータの出揃っていない危険性の伴う治療法だったという意味でもあります。
そうでしょうね。
Sakisara Fuminori's lips twist slightly in what could be a bitter or mocking smile, but it is gone before Ryoko can discern its meaning.
普通、こんなことを言って脅かすのは医者として問題なんですが、施術後に重大な脳障害をきたしたケースも報告されているんです。予後の経過には十分に注意しなければなりません。
Hence these weekly checkups. If only he would take them a little more seriously.
先週の MRI はどうでした？
Sakisara asks abruptly, as if to catch Ryoko off guard. MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. It's a way for doctors to examined the skull in detail without opening the patient's skull. Surprised by Sakisara's uncommon technical knowledge, Ryoko recalls his profile.
そういえばあなたも医者の卵だったわね。
先生が心配しているような脳機能不全は画像診断だけでも十分にわかるはずですよね。何か異常はあったんですか？
いいえ。
There was nothing, not the slightest hint of abnormal activity. For a procedure with such a low rate of success, the results have been nothing short of miraculous. However, something still bothers Ryoko. She can't shake the feeling that he's hiding something beneath his guarded exterior. Some terrible weight on his soul, perhaps. But if it's an inorganic problem, then there's nothing she can do as long as he refuses to explain it.
大丈夫ですよ先生。現に僕は今こうして病院の外でも何不自由なく生活しています。問題なんてないでしょう。
ねえ咲坂さん、こういった難しい手術は予後不断が原則なんです。もう少し私たちを信用してもらえませんと。
そうですよね。僕だって先生方を信用したい。どんな相談にも乗ってもらえるんですか？
ええ、もちろん。
Ryoko answers, smiling to cover up her irritation. Sakisara asked exactly the same question during last week's visit.
じゃあ先週の話の続きなんですが、先生、あれから大貝教授については何か分かりましたか
？Unable to answer, Ryoko hardens the mask of her smile. As before, the patient is inquiring about someone whom he has no business knowing.
大貝教授のことは、あなたの治療とは何の関係もないでしょ？
信頼しろと言った矢先にいきなり隠し事ですか？
Ryoko is used to patients treating her with hostility. Some degree of paranoia is natural when dealing with a person whose mistake could kill you. In Sakisara, however, she doesn't see the anxiety that other patients exhibit. His demeanor is perfectly calm, almost like a detective questioning a suspect.
何分だいぶ前にここを辞められた方ですからね。私個人としても交流があったわけではないし。
辞めた理由はご存知ない？
ええ、おそらく個人的な事情でしょうね。
Ryoko answers smoothly, apparently her hesitation gone. Having decided at the outset to lie, she has no trouble doing so with a straight face.
それにしても咲坂さん、なぜあなたはそんなに大貝教授にこだわるんです？お知り合いですか？
教授は今失踪中なんです。知ってましたか？
いいえ。
Ryoko realizes that her answer may have been a bit too quick. She should have acted more surprised.
近頃教授の身内の人間と懇意にしていましてね。その人から調査を頼まれているんです。
A relative? Ryoko considers this with a frown.
大貝教授に縁者の方はおられないはずですが。
おお、誰から聞きました？
それは噂話に。
Ryoko replies, remembering that she had just claimed to had no contact with the man. Wow, she is a really bad liar.
なるほど。そんなことが噂になる程度には、大貝教授は有名人だったわけですね。
まあ、一風変わった人だったみたいですね。
なのに、誰も彼が大学を辞めた理由を知らないと。
Ryoko falls silent, knowing that this isn't a topic she can brush away with a smile. Sakisara seems to have finally grasped her mood, however, as his strangely stiff tone softens a little.
先生、僕はどうしても大貝教授に会わなきゃならないんです。彼がいなくなったせいで、行く当てがなくなり困っている子がいるんです。力になってもらえませんか？
それはむしろ警察の領分なんじゃないかしら。
Although she makes it sound like the most obvious thing in the world, the suggestion is actually a gamble. If Ogai Masahiko's disappearance becomes a police matter, then the university will be investigated. Everyone who was involved in the incident will be at risk of exposure. And of course, that includes Ryoko herself. She knows, however, that Sakisara is unlikely to go to the police. First of all, his excuse is obviously a lie. They already made sure that Ogai had no relatives who could come looking for him, which is why they could bear the truth of what happened. Oh shit. So they, like, experimented on him, or killed him or something? I don't know. But then how did Sakisara, a mere patient, learn about Ogai?
咲坂さん、私の知っている範囲のことは喜んでお教えします。ですが、大貝教授は今年の4月に辞表を出して、以後は何の音信もないんです。どこか長期の旅行にでも行かれたか、その程度しか想像つきません。
そうですか。
Is fetching resistance, Ryoko is surprised when Sakisara backs down. She's still worried about his condition, but the mysterious link between him and Ogai is only making her more uneasy. But as long as he doesn't open up to her, there's nothing she can do. After a brief pause, Ryoko writes progress good on Sakisara's chart for today.
咲坂さん、それでは来週の診察ですが、今日と同じ4時でも。
Before she can finish, Sakisara is gone. It looks like someone sprayed the walls with pig guts from ceiling to floor. What color should the walls of a hospital be? White, of course. And do the creatures of raw and flesh shambling around me? I'm sure this hallway looks just as white as it should. I know, intellectually, that the walls are white. I know that the flesh beasts are really humans. I'm the one with the problem, and it's because I've accepted this that I may well lead something approaching a normal life. Even if my university's medical department is nowhere near as good as T University's, I'm still a medical student specializing in neurology. I have a basic idea of what has happened to me, but it's hard to believe. This isn't a pathological condition. It's probably some form of agnosia, unlike anything that has ever been studied before. The flesh beast called Tondo Ryoko said that other patients had developed neurological disorders after receiving the same treatment I did, so I guess I'm just another failure. It makes me want to laugh in that, knowing it all, doctor's face. That said, I don't blame the doctors who operated on me. After all, I do owe them my life. I know as well as anyone how low the chance of success was, and I had no other hope of survival. I was unlucky, that's all there is to it. The point is that my condition isn't treatable. Just like someone adapting to a hearing aid or wheelchair, I have no choice but to adapt to this nauseating scenery. Of course it's hard. It wasn't easy to resign myself to this fate. But now there's more than just despair. Even for me, there's a glimmer of hope. Keeping my eyes on my feet, I hurry home. I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood, in a house that's much too large for me alone. My parents, even unluckier than I was, died in the accident 3 months ago. I couldn't even go to the funeral for being in intensive care. I had to sell my father's business, but at least it left me with the house and good enough money to live on for a while. Of course I'm sad, but the accident took more from me than my parents. In fact, being on my own was what probably saved me. Oh yeah, I imagine. I can't even imagine what that would be like to see his parents like that. Oh, okay, that is not quite the concern I had in mind. If they were still alive, my parents would never have allowed me to live with some strange girl.
おかえり。
As I open the door, a bright voice greets me from the kitchen. The voice is beautiful and clear as a bell, human. Its sweet sound washes the day's cacophony from my memory.
ただいまさや。
Even the patter of feet coming down the hallway is music to my ears. Nowhere else in the city can I hear such footsteps. Only in this house with Saya am I so privileged.
遅かったね。ちょっと心配しちゃったぞ。
ごめんよ。今日は病院に寄っていく日だったから。
ああ、そうだっけ。
And her smile and the inquisitive tilt of her head is everything that I have lost. Since my accident, this girl is the only person I've met, perhaps the only person in the entire world who does not trigger my cognitive disorder. Which is super concerning, by the way. Like, if you see everyone as disgusting gore monsters, and there's just one normal person, you gotta question that, right? Like, that is not normal. True, her skin seems too white, and the color of her eyes and hair is probably different in reality. But even so, her form is undeniably human. And it's not just her appearance and voice either. As I bend down to take off my shoes, Saya wraps her arms around my neck and pulls me gently into her tiny bosom. Her skin feels truly human, not cold or slimy, and her hair wafts a sweet feminine fragrance. In all the world, only Saya is pleasing to my five senses. And what's more, she smiles at me, embraces me. She knows that she is my salvation, and for some reason is happy that I need her. If I had not met Saya, if I had been alone in this twisted, filth-ridden world, I would no doubt have succumbed to madness. It is no exaggeration to say that Saya alone is keeping me alive.
今日は一日どうしてた？
今の模様替えもう半分ぐらい塗り終わったよ。で今はね、ふみのりの晩ご飯作ってるの。昼間テレビで作り方やってたから。
そうか。楽しみだな。
もうちょっと時間かかりそうなの。待っててくれる？
いいよ。じゃあ僕は今の続きをやってる。
After I see the humming Saya off to the kitchen, I step into the living room. I realized one day that if the natural colors of the world were sickening, all I have to do was paint over them with colors that seemed pleasant. Went to the hardware store and bought every color of paint I could find. Then Saya and I tried different combinations until we finally found one that worked. After painting the bedroom from ceiling to floor, I was finally able to get my first good night's sleep since the accident. When they first started on the living room, Saya was unsure what to do with the curtains. Just painted carefully around the windows. Without a moment's hesitation, I tore the curtains down and painted over the glass itself. There'll never be anything out there that I'd want to see. So as long as we get the storm shutters closed, the neighbors probably won't think anything of it.
ご飯できたよ。
こっちで食べよう。持ってきてくれるか。
As she enters the living room with a tray of food, Saya sniffs the air.
ペンキの匂い平気？
Now that she mentions it, I suppose the smell of paint thinner must be building up in this closed room. It doesn't really bother me though. There are far worse smells outside.
さやは嫌いかい？
ううん、平気。文則が大丈夫ならいい。
Saya sets the food on the table. Unfortunately, neither its color nor its smell is at all appetizing. Not that food elsewhere is any different.
いただきます。
As has become routine, I steel myself and methodically transport the food into my mouth. The taste is as gut-wrenching as I expected, but it's not Saya's fault. I'm sure she made it exactly like the cooking show said. It's just that my taste buds can't accept it.
美味しくない？
She asks hesitantly.
まあね。
Lying won't make Saya happy. She knows about my condition.
気にしないで。明日はまた別のものを作ってあげるから。
ごめんな、いつも。せっかく作ってくれたのに。
いいのよ。こうやっていろいろ試していけば、いつか文則でも美味しく食べられるメニューが見つかるかもしれないじゃない。
In my current state, eating is nothing more than an unwelcome duty. As much as I hate it, I need food to survive. If I stay alive, then perhaps one day, as Saya says, I'll be able to taste something delicious again. I met Saya, didn't I?
さやは食べないの？
私はもう済ましたから。
In all the time we've been together, Saya's never once eaten with me. I don't know why she refuses to do so. It makes me a little sad. Still, I'm not about to push the issue, not when she's putting up with all the problems I have.
そういえば、今日もう一度病院で君のお父さんのこと聞いてみた。
パパの？
Dr. Ogai Masahiko is Saya's father, and her only living relative. Saya has asked me to unravel the mystery of his disappearance.
やっぱり何も教えてくれない。何か隠している雰囲気なんだが。
そう。
I expected Saya to be a little more disappointed.
心配じゃないのかい？お父さんのこと。
そういうわけじゃないの。
Saya responds with an unreadable expression. She gives a little shake of her head, then smiles at me once again.
ありがとう、文則。私のためにいろいろと。
Sorry, I think I'm coming down with something. My throat's a little sore.
君はそれ以上のことを僕のためにしてくれるんだ。
I thank her for the meal and set my chopsticks down next to the perfectly clean plate. As wretched as the taste was, thinking of the care that Saya put into it gave me the strength to finish every bite.
じゃあ、お風呂にする？
また背中流してくれるか？
Taking a bath with the way you sees the world must be absolutely disgusting. Ever since Saya moved in, it's been like having my own wife. which is concerning because she is a child, but Desire. Why are you so good to me? Okay, so I muted voices because this is a NSFW scene, and I will be completely censoring everything about this, but I guess I will read the dialogue. Saya's slender hips bounce up and down with an insatiable hunger, inch to sin, thrusting my manhood deep into the embrace of her hot, tight womb. Yes, good. Hot, deeper. Who could imagine that her seemingly incorruptible body would ever glisten with the hot sweat of passion, or feast on pleasure with such bottomless lust? Saya, my darling Saya, is this really what you want? Why do you go so far from me? What am I that you can give yourself to me, body and soul? More, Fuminori, harder, it's so deep. Is it merely sympathy? Do you pity me, the exile from society? Is that enough for you to surrender yourself to such mad desire? Are you so wanton? Yes, please, give me more. I'm going mad. Her eyes as she gazes down upon me are devoid of twisted or sinful desire. There's only the melting flames of ecstasy. Her beautiful carnal moans and undulating body seem impossible, dreamlike, and I cannot help but wonder if even the pleasure searing my flesh is but an illusion. Okay, so that does not affect NSFW stands. Needing to reassure myself that she's real, I raise my hands to her breasts and seize them like my life depends on it. Saya convulses, screaming like an animal as I roll her sharp, pink nipples through my fingers. She throws her head back and gasps for air. Ah, yes, Fuminori, I'm going to pieces. Saya's here. She is with me now. Only in this moment is her existence certain. Only when I am joined with her can I believe. Fuminori, inside. Please, come inside. I want you in me. I nod and accelerate the pace of my thrusts. Saya gasps, rise in pitch as her mad dance of passion reaches its peak. I'm coming, Fuminori. Together. No matter what cruel fate might await me, Saya, there is nothing I fear more than losing you. As Saya climaxes, convulsing and wailing, I surrender to her tight embrace and unleash my boiling seed into her womb. So hot, Fuminori. Apologies, I had a cough. I think now I can re-enable voice hints. Saya collapses atop me, still smiling, and I wrap my arms around her. The feeling of her soft, sweat-soaked skin and the warmth emanating from her body reassure me that she is still here.
ふみのり、泣いてるの？
I realize that my cheeks are wet with tears. Sorry, since I've made so many cuts, I was just checking the video time currently.
どうしてなんだサイヤ。なぜ僕にここまでしてくれる？
ふみのり。
わからないんだ。わからないのに僕だけがどんどん君に惹かれていく。君なしじゃ耐えられなくなっていく。
I wrap my arms tighter around her, praying that our bodies will melt together and never again be apart.
教えてくれ。どうすれば君を失わずにいられる？僕は何をすればいい？どうやって君に報いればいい？
こうやって抱いていて。
Saya whispers into my chest.
ふみのりに抱いてもらうの大好き。ずっと一緒にこうしていたい。だから私はふみのりから離れたりしない。
なぜ僕なんだ？
それはね、ふみのりが一人ぼっちだから。
She says softly, gazing up into my eyes.
それはさやも一人ぼっちだったから。
The sorrow in her voice resonates with my own. There is a deep loneliness in her eyes, a loneliness from which now springs boundless affection.
だからさやにもふみのりしかいないの。この世でただ一人だけ私を抱きしめてくれる大好きなふみのり。
Now I know. No matter what horrors this world unleashes upon me, all I ever need is Saya. Yo is determined to talk to him today. Nothing will happen as long as she hesitates. It will only prolong her suffering. The time has come to show courage once again. Yo's fourth period on Thursday is biology. This is our one chance to see Fuminori. I really do feel bad for his friends. Like, they don't understand what's going on, and he can't really talk about it. He's basically just suffering in silence. As a required course with many students, the lecture is held in a large hall that can seat well over 200. But since the room is usually only half full, it's rarely difficult for Yo to find the seat she wants. Yo prefers to sit near the center where it's easiest to hear the professor. Most of the students congregate in this area for the same reason. Fuminori usually sits beside her, although given the ambiguous state of their relationship, she knows better than to take this for granted. Still, she tries to save a seat whenever possible. The classroom isn't crowded today, so Yo is able to put her bag on the seat next to her without inconveniencing anyone. But when the professor arrives at the usual time to start class, there's still no sign of Fuminori. After waiting for about 10 minutes, Yo scans the room furtively. Fuminori is there, sitting alone in the far back corner. Did he miss Yo when he came in? No, he couldn't have. And besides, no serious student would willingly sit so far from the front. Feeling miserable, Yo slides her bag back over to herself. Fuminori is out the door the moment class ends. Yo barely manages to catch up to him before he disappears down the hallway.
咲坂さん
Fuminori jerks at the sound of his name. You would think she just screamed at him.
何か
He turns to her and asks reluctantly. Now that they are face to face, Yo is painfully aware of just how much weight Fuminori has lost. His sunken eyes and protruding cheekbones are a far cry from the features familiar to her. She wonders whether he's been under a lot of stress or perhaps not getting enough nutrition. Maybe it's both. Yeah, I can imagine. He definitely looks more tense than he should. Afraid even. But with what, she can't imagine. His eyes move restlessly from point to point and he refuses to look Yo in the eyes. It hurts to see Fuminori this way. What could have changed him so? Hooray, she reminds herself, rekindling the flame of courage in her heart.
お話があるんです。ちょっといいですか？
Oh no. Yo has a crush on him, but with fire in the mix, that is a recipe for disaster. The courtyard is empty and silent. No one is willing to sit and chat in the cold November air.
話って何
Don't you remember? Yo almost blurts the question but manages to keep her composure.
咲坂さん、最近ちょっと様子が変です。見てて心配になります。
そうかもね。まあ、あんな目にあった後だから。
He smiles like it's nothing, but even that seems forced. He's even standing precisely one pace further away from her than he used to.
本当にそれだけなんですか？
君にはそれだけじゃないように見えるのかい
Yo manages to keep from flinching at the harshness of his tone.
何か我慢してるみたいに見えます。
Rather than answer, Fuminori grabs his toe. God, I am bad at reading. Fuminori grinds his toe into the dead grass at his feet. Feeling that her determination might flag, Yo lets the words come as they may.
どうしようもないものを無理して壊れそうになるほど頑張って我慢してるみたいに。今の咲坂さんはそう見えます。
そうかい
Fuminori mutters through clenched teeth, no longer trying to deny it or change the subject. There's an even clearer signal of rejection than his prior evasiveness. Yo's determination is strong. Today at least, she won't back down.
友達ってこんな時のためにいると思うんです。
She implores, trying to convey the sincerity of her feelings for him.
ご家族のことは本当に残念だったと思います。でも咲坂さんは一人ぼっちじゃありません。友尾くんや大見ちゃんや、それに私がいます。
Yo could no longer stop the words pouring from her lips. She fears that if she does not unleash her feelings now, they will be lost forever.
一人で背負い込んだりしなくても、私たちで何とかできることだってあると思うんです。たとえ何もできないにしても、話してさえくれれば、あなたが少しでも楽になるかもしれない。私、咲坂さんの力になりたいんです。他のみんなも同じ気持ちだと。
やめてくれ。
Fuminori shouts, silencing Yo's intrigue. She promised herself that she wouldn't back down, but Fuminori's expression is terrible enough to shatter her resolve. The look in his eyes is not anger or any other warm-blooded emotion. It is hate. Murderously cold hate.
そういえば君には一つ返事しなきゃいけない要件があったね。
He remembers. He remembers and still he has to treat her so coldly. That is all the answer she needs. If his words stab any deeper, she might very well die.
僕は君のことをとりわけ特別に意識したことなんてなかった。君に好意を持たれてもどう接すればいいのか迷ってた。
I don't believe that. Yeah, I don't believe that for a second.
僕が君のことどう思ってるのか正直な気持ちが自分でもわからなかったから。
咲坂さん。
でもね、今ではもうはっきりと答えが出てる。あれから考える時間だけはたっぷりとあったからね。筑波さん、僕はあんたのことが大嫌いだ。顔も見たくない。
Don't cry, Yo tells herself, but it's too late to stop the tears pouring from her eyes.
もう二度と会いたくないっていうのは無理だね。同じ学校に通ってるんだし。だからせめて今後は僕に声をかけないでくれないか。目障りなんだよ、つくづく。
Yo whispers in shock and despair. To which Fuminori twists his lips into a malevolent smile.
君さ、少しは頭を冷やした方が良かったんだよ。どうせ大宮浩二にけしかけられてその気になってただけなんだろ。自分一人でのぼせてる分には勝手だけどさ、他人を巻き込むなって言うんだ。
That's all Yo can take. Even after shedding tears in front of him, she absolutely refuses to let him hear her cry. Any disgrace would be preferable to breaking down here. So she runs, fleeing breathlessly from the courtyard with Fuminori's cold smile at her back. Omi was the first to catch sight of Yo and Fuminori leaving for the courtyard. Reluctant to interrupt them, but still unwilling to leave them alone, she and Koji ended up watching the whole thing from the shadows.
あいつ。
Throughout the exchange, Omi was clearly itching to jump out and punch Fuminori in the face. Knowing her temper, Koji kept firm hold of her arm until the end. If he hadn't, she might very well have done it. Honestly, it would have been deserved. Dude, where... I understand where he's coming from, but... That was way too... That was too much. Fuminori leaves after Yo, his every step seeming to take an act of willpower. Koji sighs heavily into the once more empty courtyard, but the bitter taste in his mouth will not go away.
どうしちまったんだかな、あいつは。
Even Koji cannot forgive Fuminori's treatment of Yo. However, the first thing that he feels is confusion, not anger. Koji has known Fuminori since long before college. Fuminori was never this cruel before. There's no question now that the accident changed him.
ねえコージ、このまま放っておくつもり？
放っておきたくないにしたって俺たちに何ができる？
覗き見よりマシなことよ。
Omi shouts, her face red with fury.
私、先坂君に一言言ってやらなきゃ気が済まないわ。
それで筑波の気が晴れるってもんでもないだろうに。
だったら私のキーだけでも晴らすわよ。
Yo and Omi are best friends, just like Koji and Fuminori. In fact, it was the relationship between Koji and Omi that brought the other two together. Omi's anger is only natural.
私、先坂君と二人だけで話してみたいわ。コージはついてこなくてもいいから。
本気かよ。
その代わり、ヨウのことを見ていてあげて。あの子、多分心底傷ついてるから。泣き終わった後で、誰かの優しさが必要になると思う。
なあ、それって俺とお前の役回りが逆じゃないのか？
私みたいな性格だとね、慰め役は無理。励ますつもりで余計に傷跡広げちゃうのがオチなのよ。
なるほど、納得いった。
あ、嫌な言い方。
じゃあまあ、そっちはほどほどにしとけよな。
Ending the conversation before Omi's mood got any worse, Koji heads off to find Yo. Here we go, back into the gory hellscape. I feel awful, miserable, but also refreshed. I finally crossed the line. I knew it would come crashing down like this sooner or later. Having become unable to feel anything but disgust for other people, there was no way I could hope to maintain the relationships I'd had before the accident. Today's incident will definitely get back to Koji and Omi, and everyone will be convinced I've had a major change of character. Honestly, I don't care anymore. At least I probably won't be committed for this. I just need to avoid acting any stranger than I already have. If this puts a rift between me and the others, good. The thought of all the stress I've been avoiding. Of all the stress I'll avoid brings a smile to my lips. I'm fed up with them sticking their noses into my life. It's like they don't care that they make my gut turn just by being near me. I've been terrified of them until now, but today I struck fear into one of them. In that sense, it's something of a relief. But I'm not entirely without remorse for what happened. Yeah, that's what I thought. The person I just demolished with the verbal equivalent of a nuclear bomb used to be my friend Yo. Even if my senses don't believe it, my mind accepts the theory. I don't have any particular grudge against Yo herself, and I don't want to hurt her. In retrospect, perhaps I should have just ignored her outright. Yo was an attractive girl. I certainly didn't think badly of her. To be honest though, I was annoyed when Koji and Omi tried to stick us together. It felt like they were using us as entertainment, and Yo seemed totally oblivious to the fact that she was dancing to their tune. Her cluelessness was irritating. Still, I knew that none of them meant any harm. Back then I didn't have any reason to hurt others just to get my way. If having a casual relationship with Yo would make our circle of friends together, I was willing to make that compromise. Now, however, there's no room in my heart for such forbearance. If merely talking to someone is an ordeal, then how could I be expected to show them kindness? These ruminations have left me exhausted. I want to return to Saya as soon as possible, but thinking about the packed trains and crowded downtown streets between here and home saps my spirit. Catching sight of a nearby bench, I sit down and close my eyes for the horrors of the world. I can't do anything about the stink or the noise, but at least I can calm my nerves enough to rest. When I regained consciousness in the T University hospital ward, the world was as dark as it is now. I had not yet recovered my sight, even though my eyes and optical nerves were undamaged. It must have been an after effect of the accident. Blindness was a shock, but now I know that my suffering was nothing. After all, my senses of hearing, touch, taste, and smell were all fine at the time. The real horror began when my sight returned. The one small mercy was that I was able to come to terms with the accident and my neurosurgery while still blind. I panicked when I first saw the nightmarish hospital and the blood-curdling shapes of the doctors and nurses, but I soon guessed the cause. It chills me to think of what might have happened, but if I had recovered my sight along with my consciousness, suddenly awakening in what can only be described as hell, I would have no doubt lost my mind instantly. Soon my disorder spread to the senses of touch, taste, and smell. As it turns out, sight exerts tremendous influence over the other four. Oh, okay, so when he first woke up he was blind, but all of his other senses were still completely normal. It was only after getting his sight that everything else started to corrupt. The taste of my food and the feel of my bed sheets, the fragrance of my get well flowers, all became unbearably foul as my eyes said they should be. Eventually, when even the doctors' voices became unrecognizable as humans, I decided to kill myself. I didn't believe for a second that I could live in this new world. At least not until I met Saya. One night, while thinking of a painless way to die, I found myself succumbing to sleep. Drifting between the nightmares of my dreams and the nightmare of reality, I didn't notice her enter my room. The next thing I knew, there was a face staring down at me from next to my bed. My face was not covered in pus or slime, or earthworm-like feelers. It had smooth white cheeks, round eyes, a lovely little nose. All things I'd never expected to see again. The face was that of a girl, undeniably human, and positively glowing with beauty. I sighed in admiration, savoring the first peace and joy since regaining my sight. She had not expected such a reaction, apparently.
怖くないの？私のこと。
She asked, looking at the clock. I saw that it was exactly 3 in the morning. No time for a young girl to be alone in the hospital. Perhaps she expected me to mistake her for a ghost. But I would not have cared if she'd been a ghost. Either way, she was a godsend.
君は誰だい？なぜここに？
私はさや。パパのこと探しに来たの。
I assumed that she was the daughter of a late shift doctor or another patient. It was unusual, but not unthinkable for a girl to be wandering around the hospital. So the fact that she was surprised that he wasn't scared of her makes me think that the normal reaction from other people would be to be scared of her. In which case, if he's seeing the world as disgusting gore and humans as monsters, if he sees Saya as a normal human, would that mean that her normal form, outside of his perception of her, would be as a monster?
あなた怖がらないんじゃつまらない。
Was she trying to scare him?
あ、ちょっと。
I cried, desperate to keep her from leaving. It was only after she turned around that I realized I hadn't thought of what to say next.
何？
Her beautiful eyes drew me in, healing my soul to its core. Though the white haze flooding my mind, I struggled to form a coherent sentence.
女の子にお願いしていいことじゃないんだが、今は君にしか頼めない。
No longer concerned with propriety, I let my words come as they're willed.
手を握らせてもらえないだろうか。
Saya looked confused at first, but then she smiled, like she had found a new toy. Her smile was brighter than my memories of the sun.
変な人。そんなこと言い出したのあなたが初めて。
She said, holding out her slender white hand. Ever so carefully, as though catching snowflakes, I placed my palm against hers. I could feel her human warmth through the softness of her delicate fingers. She was there, just beyond the palm of my hand. Thinking back on the joyful tears I shed then, I know that this was the moment I was saved from my fate.
この半月の間に初めて人に触れた。人だと感じられる体に。
は？
See, she's... When he says felt them as a human, she's confused. That could just because he's basically talking nonsense, but... I really feel like she might not be human.
他の人じゃダメなんだ。僕事故に遭って、その後遺症らしいんだけど、人が人の姿に見えないんだよ。
本当に不思議な人。あなたって面白い。明日の夜も
She said,
また来ていい？
she said, winding her fingers gently around mine.
あ、そりゃもういいのかい？君はそんなことをして。
大丈夫よ。夜は私のものだから。
She replied. And so our rendezvous began. Saya came to my room every night at 3 a.m., skillfully taking advantage of the duty nurse's shift change. I was astonished to learn that she was living inside the hospital.
これだけ広いと隠れる場所には事欠かないから。
She said, answering my surprise with a nonchalant smile. She had been living in the suburbs with her father, she told me, until one day he suddenly stopped coming home. After she had tired of waiting, Saya decided one night to sneak into the hospital where he'd worked, and there she'd wrecked for over 2 months, searching for his whereabouts all the while.
学校には行かなくていいのかい？
いいの。勉強は全部パパに教えてもらったから。さやはとっても頭がいいんだよ。
She was a strange girl. On one hand, she looked and acted like a child. On the other, she was remarkably self-reliant, and at times exhibited a sharp intelligence and deep knowledge that many may have found unsettling. I didn't care. Saya was the only other human in a world gone mad. Her existence meant far more to me than the standards of society.
危なくないのか？見つかりそうになったことは。
全然平気。ここにいれば食べるものにも不自由しないし、パパのうちに一人ぼっちでいるよりもずっと楽しいよ。入院してる患者さんたちのうち、ちょっと精神的に参ってそうな人を事前にチェックしといてね。
Saya continued grinning mischievously.
時々部屋に真夜中に忍び込んで脅かしたりするの。その人が大騒ぎしても、そういう患者さんの言うことはみんな真に受けたりしないから。
So can only people with brain damage see Saya? And he always scares them, but it's only us that she doesn't scare.
結局は悪い夢ってことで片付けられちゃうし。
Her confession reminded me that the hospital was famous for its ghost stories. Who could have imagined that there was actually a real girl ambitiously roaming these halls?
じゃあ僕も最初はそのつもりで。
うん。ごめんね。怒った。
While her pranks were hardly praiseworthy, I couldn't bring myself to scold her for the very thing that brought us together.
もうやらない方がいい。その代わり夜は僕の話し相手になってくれないか？
I mean, yeah. Torturing brain-damaged people for a laugh is not very cool.
さやもその方が楽しい。
With extreme care, I was able to conceal my sensory disorder. It was glaringly obvious that the doctors had no way to cure me, and the fact that I had undergone a still experimental procedure made me even more cautious. As a medical student, it was easy for me to imagine how the doctors would react if they discovered that I was exhibiting such unusual side effects. I was not about to become a guinea pig, a mere specimen to be examined with clinical detachment. And so I hid my discomfort and loathing behind a mask of normalcy, convincing the doctors that any signs of stress were merely a result of hospitalization. Saya was my support. Looking forward to her nightly visits gave me the strength to endure my daily torture. Hope can make an enormous difference in a patient's progress. With the aid of my secret nurse, I recovered at a pace that left the doctors stunned. On the last night before my release, I summoned my courage and asked her,
君はこれからもずっとこの病院に居続けるのかい？
うん。結局パパの手がかりはなかったけど、もう他にいるところもないし、バレそうになるまではいいかなって。
In other words, there's nothing keeping her there.
よかったら僕の家に来ないか？
I asked timidly. The question took all the courage I had.
え？
家族はもういないから部屋はいくらでも余ってる。人目を忍ぶような必要もないし、住み心地もそんなに悪くないんじゃないかと。
ずっとふみのりと一緒に暮らすの？
I was too afraid to ask her what she thought of that, so I hastily offered a deal.
君の父さんのことは代わりに僕が探してあげる。約束するよ。必ず居場所を見つけてみせる。
難しいと思うよ、それ。
Saya said, looking a little embarrassed.
多分パパ、何か悪いことをしてこの病院を辞めたんだと思う。
Oops, I didn't mean to do that.
だから警察とかは困るの。 なるべくこっそりと探さなきゃいけないし。
頑張るよ。どんなことだってやる。僕は。
Unable to control myself, I finally spoke the truth.
さやと離れたくないんだ。
At first she looked bewildered, but after a few moments of silence she said,
少しだけ考えさせて。
That night, she left my room earlier than usual. On the day of my release, I managed to smile as I accepted the hideous, foul-smelling celebratory bouquet. The flesh beasts calling themselves Koji, Omi, and Yo came to pick me up. Though they had come to see me many times during my stay, it never got easier to see my friends change so horribly. My sudden tears of despair drew suspicion, but I managed to explain them away as tears of joy. While we walked to Koji's car, I looked desperately for Saya amid the grotesque scenery. Even as we drove away, I kept watching the hospital fade into the distance, praying for a last glimmer of hope. But Saya never appeared. After Koji and the others dropped me off, I paused a while to regard my surroundings. I lived my entire life on this block, in this house. There was no other place that I could call home. But nothing was as I remembered. As I walked up the path to the front door and took in the yard where I had spent my childhood, I could feel those memories being defiled by the twisted, festering shapes around me. Inside the house, I found nothing familiar, nothing to offer me comfort and warmth. What I had once called home was now a whole other world.
僕にはもう帰る場所なんてない。
I whispered with a smile of self-pity. There was one last stop to make, one last nail to hammer into my coffin. I stepped in the room that had cradled me from childhood. The walls were papered with human entrails, the bed a tangled mess of worm flesh. But none of that mattered. There, curled up on the bed like an abandoned cat, was Saya. As I stood there in shock, she looked up at me and with a tiny, weak voice said,
本当にここにいてもいい？
I responded by sweeping her into my arms, embracing her tightly so that she would not escape. Saya did not resist. All right, let me... Oh, okay. Quick saving just saves into slot 1 for me. Also save on to file 1 as well besides the quick save. But alright, that's where I'm gonna leave it off for today. If you made it this far, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time when we continue with more Saya no Uta. Until then, bye!